Is she really going out with him? And welcome to episode 59 of a Thai football podcast. I'm out and about this week. I'm at Khon Kaen Provincial Stadium for the opening T3 game of the season between Khon Kaen FC and Ubon Kruanapat. Looking forward to this one. It's been a while since I've been to a Thai game, so quite excited. So excited that in fact I was here very early and was the first person to buy a matchday ticket for Khon Kaen FC's 24-25 season. It's all about the little things, isn't it? Anyway, I'm going to go and have a pre-match wander, so while I do that, you listen to Port fan Toby as he shares his opinions on last Thursday's top of the table T1 clash between Port FC and Buriram United. Hi Toby, it's great to have you back on a Thai football podcast.
Hi Dale, how's it all going with you?
Yeah, it's going very well, thank you. It's nice to be back in Thailand and yeah, I'm enjoying it.
So anyway, let's move on to football, shall we?
Let's move on to football and Port FC against Buriram United. I've got my thoughts on the game as a neutral. Obviously, you're on to give the Port viewpoint. How do you want to work this? Do you want to tell me what you thought first, or would you like to hear my views and then you can rip me to shreds?
No, go on. You go ahead first. Let's see what you think.
First of all, I was really looking forward to this game. It was the first chance I've had to watch a match this season. With the new TV deal, they've made it very hard to watch things on pirate channels. So all those options that were open to me previously have all now been shut. And I don't have the patience to keep scouting around. So I'd sorted out the app and everything without too much hassle. And I want to say a big, huge thank you to Russ for helping me do that. Seemed to work. Everything was set up. Looking forward to the game. And then it kicked off. And to be honest, I don't think it lived up to the billing. I think it was a bit scrappy, certainly early on. Lots of niggly fouls and petulance from both sets of players, really. There wasn't much ebb and flow to the game in the first half. Second half, I missed the first 5 or 10 minutes because I was trying to work out how to cast my phone onto the TV and I couldn't get that to work, so I was watching it on my phone. Which probably coloured my view, to be honest. But no, it didn't really get going, did it? I don't think. I can only remember a couple of chances for Port, mainly. I don't remember Buriram having that many opportunities to score. Port's finishing was pretty woeful. Neil Etheridge made a couple of great saves, as did Warrior.
Yes.
That double save towards the end was outstanding and probably won you the point. Overall, I think Port were the better side. Buriram looked tired and jaded. They didn't really look interested. Now, whether that was Port's tactics, obviously I'll get your opinions on that. But yeah, it was, overall, I kind of came away thinking, well, that was a disappointment. I wished I'd watched a film on Netflix or something.
I can see your viewpoint there. 0-0 is never a good game for the neutral. Obviously, I'm biased, but, being in the stadium, a packed sellout and a buzzing atmosphere, there was a lot of colour from the fans and a lot of passion being shown. But yeah, maybe it didn't really get shown on the pitch. It wasn't the best Buriram performance, let's be honest. They can do better than that. But I thought that Coach Rangsam set out Port's formation differently. He played 4-5-1 most of the game. He played two fullbacks on the right-hand side. Asnawi pushed up as like a winger/wing back and Supernan was behind him. And I felt that it worked really tactically in defence and midfield because we could contain them. Buriram have been playing 3-4-3 for many, many seasons now. It doesn't matter who the coach is. They normally almost always play the same style of football, the same formation. But I agree with you. I think it got muddled for them. I kept seeing Supachai and Basoli taking each other's space in the number 9 role. That left a lot of gaps on the left-hand side. And, Lucas Crispin is clearly more of a number 10, in the whole, but he was playing as a left winger and couldn't really affect the play on that side of the pitch. I would agree with you also that the ebb and flow of the game, it wasn't smooth. I feel that was the referee's fault. I feel he was a little bit too friendly for Buriram in certain cases. One example is when Shimura got injured and the Buriram player went down pretending to be injured as well. And we thought it was a foul on Shimura, but when Shimura got carried off and the Buriram player got up again, he gave a free kick to Buriram, which was pretty surprising.
I think there was a little bit more to that incident than you probably saw in the stadium. What I think happened was, was it Shimura? Is that Noboru?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Noboru Shimura, yeah.
He wasn't actually involved in the foul. It was someone else. And he pulled up with a hamstring injury, it looked like, which is why he went down. And then the Buriram player and another Port player were involved. I think the Buriram player initially, it looked as if he made the initial foul, but the Port player threw his arm back and caught him in the face. So I think it was actually genuine. He was genuinely injured. They had to stop play and he had to change his shirt. Whether there was blood or not, I couldn't really see. They didn't show any close-ups, but that was certainly the implication. And then the free kick was given for the flailing arm.
Okay, so not the first contact, but the second, the arm coming back. Okay, well, I mean, you get a better view on TV. We only saw it in real time, and of course, that when one person screams outrage, a lot of people normally scream and join along. I felt the ref personally with his stoppages, he was stopping play for a very long time and not really adding much on. I mean, we got 6 minutes at the end of the 90, but it could have been much more than that. And I feel that although that it was a scrappy game, he wasn't kind of allowing things, allowing some of the more softer offences. He wasn't ignoring them. He was pulling up on pretty much everything I found last night. But as a game, I felt it was more about individuals than team performances. I mean, firstly, Etheridge, hats off to him. That was an outstanding performance. I was right behind him when he pulled off that save from Bodin, and everyone was screaming goal. You won't see a better save like that all season. And I think, I'm pretty certain Buriram will probably go on to win the league by adding a goalkeeper of his quality. He's going to earn the team points over the course of the season. I also, Warrior, our goalkeeper, the save he pulled off in the second half against Superchai was excellent as well. Piradal, our midfielder, also deserves credit as well. He is a Rolls Royce of a midfielder, and it's a shame he lost Shimura so early in the first half, because those two, working in tandem is a massive upgrade after last season's kind of switching all the midfield around quite a lot. But he still was a commanding presence. As a Port fan, you've got to ask, why didn't the coach bring on a second striker? Or Dumbuya especially would have a point to prove if he got brought on, and he brought Tirasak on really right at the very end and kept him quite wide as well. So, I see it as 2 points lost, a missed opportunity. No matter, I still give a lot of credit to the team. I still think they dominated, but to win championships, you don't want to dominate teams. You want to beat them.
I think that's a fair appraisal, really.
I feel that Buriram are going to beat other teams with this starting 11, because they just have so much talent in there. I think they came to maybe nick a 1-0 off of us. That seemed to be their game plan. They almost did it a few times, but I don't think this is like a vintage Buriram team. But unfortunately, they are a cut above the rest when it comes to the whole league.
Now, you've mentioned substitutions, and like you, I was surprised that Dombuya didn't get on. Do you think this is a case of a gentleman's agreement, or a gentleman and ladies agreement in this case? That I've seen it quite often, that former players don't like playing against their ex-clubs. Now, whether it's something that's unwritten, or whether it's something that's in the contract, or whether it's just a face thing, I don't know. But do you think there was anything like that involved in the decision? Because it did seem like a strange one, wasn't it? Because he was involved in all the match promotion, wasn't he, in the build-up? His face was plastered quite prominently against all the things that I saw. So to not play seemed a very, very strange decision.
Yeah, well, Peridot played, and we signed him from Buriram as well in the summer period. So I would be surprised if they made an agreement not to play him, yet put another good player onto the pitch. I think he went for Motta because, if you compare both those two strikers with last season, Motta had the better season. Maybe he thought that Motta would be a bit of a better option outside the box. Motta did okay. He hit the post. He probably came closest of everyone in the second half, but he hasn't really shined so far as a Port player. He's got one goal to his name. He just isn't having that rub of the green. He worked hard, but going back to the agreement, I'm not sure about that, because if we did have a recently signed ex-Buriram player on the pitch already, so I think you've got your tinfoil hat on a bit there, Dale. I think you're going too deep down into the conspiracy theory.
Yeah, I see conspiracies everywhere, Toby. I've been watching Thai football too long not to.
Thai football has these weird moments for sure, but in this day and age, I just can't see it personally. But I might be the naive one here.
Anyway, you've said yourself 2 points dropped, and I think if I was a Port fan, that's probably how I would be feeling, if I'm being honest. What was the mood like amongst the crowd after the game? Coming out, what was the consensus?
I think most people were of the same opinion as me. It's still credible to get a draw out of Buriram. They've really come out of the blocks to start this season. So, and remember, both teams are still unbeaten. I think because it wasn't a classic Buriram team and it wasn't a good performance from them, I still feel that they've got a lot of things that they need to sort out tactically. But like I said earlier, they'll go to teams up and down the league and get 3 points because, man for man, they are better. You look around their starting 11 and they're all pretty decent players. I think most of us felt that they all kind of put it like 5, 6 out of 10 performances in, apart from Etheridge. So really they were there for the taking. So, and that was the general mood afterwards. That and why was the ref being a bit of a dick also was another conversation that came up several times over, but that's football for you.
It's also football fans for you, because again, I'm absolutely prepared to take everything that's coming my way here, but I didn't see anything particularly wrong with his display. You've said already that he did tend to sort of stop the game, and he didn't have time on at the end of the first half as well. There were 2 very lengthy stoppages in the first period, and we only got 3 minutes. Again, it's hard. I know, being a football fan myself, and I've come away from games effing and blinding at the referee and screaming and
sure.
And then when you see it again, you kind of look and you think, well, actually, I was wrong. He was right. I personally, and I don't have a dog in this fight, I just wanted to be entertained last night. I didn't really think he got a lot wrong. And I know the feeling amongst Port fans is in line with what you've been saying. But that's football fans for you, isn't it?
I would say that, and you can pass me the tinfoil hat now, Dale, but I feel that Buriram are very good at game management and within that referee management. They are very skilled at getting a decision in their favour. There were a few moments last night, and I get it, I'm going to be biased here. There were a few moments where clearly we thought there was a foul on a Port player. Then play would move across the pitch, and a Buriram player would still pass the ball, but if a Port player got any form of contact, they would drop to the ground, and the referee would take a look at that, see where the pass is going, and if the pass didn't reach a Buriram player, he would award a free kick. I'm not saying that happened every time they fell to fall, but there were certainly moments where I felt that they managed the referee, and the referee was slightly lenient in their favour. Of course, there was no overall controversial decision, which would have been more of a talking point. But if you stack up those moments over 90 minutes, you will see that Buriram, I need to probably go get some stats right now and get back to you. But, I felt that overall Buriram got a few more favourable decisions. It wasn't a nasty game, which was quite refreshing, because sometimes these do get a bit testy. But it certainly had moments. I feel that maybe because there was no pantomime villain, Kim and Coles did their best to anger the Zone C in the first half. Because there was no kind of figurehead or scapegoat, someone to vent your anger at, I think the referee was the one who's getting most of the flack post-match.
And I think as soon as we finish this interview, we're both going to rush off and rewatch the game, aren't we, to see how wrong we both are, I think.
As you talk, I'm on the Final Score app trying to see if I can find free kicks.
Okay.
Yeah, so, okay, here it goes. So, Port committed, according to the referee blew up for 18 Port fouls and 15 Buriram fouls. There were 4 yellow cards for Port and there were 2 for Buriram. Okay, so maybe not overwhelming evidence, but yes, slightly leaning in favour of the away team via the stats. So there, I'd like to feel I'm slightly vindicated there.
Yep, that's absolutely fine. Spoken like a true football fan. I'd be exactly the same if it was my team, don't worry.
No, I get that.
Anyway, thanks again for coming on. Really do appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, Dale. Thank you so much for having me again.
With kick-off approaching, I'm about to make my way into the stadium. I think it's fair to say there's not going to be a massive crowd here today. Quite disappointed, to be honest. Last time I came, there were a lot more than this. Hopefully people will turn up once the game's underway. Anyway, as I settle back to watch the first half, you can now listen to the other side of the story. So this is Jamie, the Buriram United fan, with his opinions on Thursday night's T1 top-of-the-table clash between Port and Buriram United. So, this is Dale here, in his den in Khon Kaen, speaking to Jamie in his shack in Iraq.
You killed me on it already.
Did you like that?
I loved it. How long have you been working on that?
all week. Ever since I knew we were going to have this conversation, I'm saving that one up.
We're going to have to talk when I get back home, and I'm wanting to get a rhyme with Buriram.
Yeah, that is a challenge. Give me a couple of weeks, I might have come up with something. Anyway, you're not here to enjoy yourself, Jamie, so put that out of your mind.
Well, I'm going to enjoy myself more than I did last year, talking about the same game.
I bet. So that's what you are here to talk about. The big match, as we're legally obliged to call it, between Port and Buriram United. I've got you on to get your thoughts from a Buriram perspective. I've got a few of my own. Do you want to go first or second?
I'd like to follow you.
Okay, well, to be honest, I thought it was a huge anticlimax. I was very disappointed. I was expecting a lot more. To me, and you know, I'm willing to be shot down, and I probably will be, but it just looked like two mid-table sides slogging it out on a wet Thursday night in Bangkok. It was niggly, it was petulant, it was tetchy. I don't think Buriram offered a lot. I think Port offered a little bit more, but not as much as I was expecting. Low on quality. I think both goalkeepers produced the biggest moments of quality. There was 2 saves from Etheridge, which were outstanding. And then Warrior pulled off a fantastic double save late on. But other than that, there was really very little for the neutral to get excited about, I thought.
Yeah, it's interesting because if you can see the piece of paper I've got in front of me, it's the first thing it says is anticlimax.
That's it. We can leave it there. Thank you. And
yes, thank you. Nice to see you. Obviously, it's first against second, but after the 2 matches last year, nothing was going to match the drama we had. So it's going to be hard to build it up to follow those 2 games. Yeah, we do have a slightly different view. And I think the Port coach deserves a lot of credit because he's figured a way of or Port generally have figured a way over the last couple of years how to nullify Buriram. I don't think you can always say Buriram were not on the top of their game, but I think the coach has figured out how they play. The Port fans must be upset because why can't he do that every week? They'd be walking away with the league if he could.
Yeah, I suppose you've got to give him credit, but he must be kicking himself because you were there for the taking last night.
That's exactly what's written on my piece of paper.
Ah, right. That's some sort of mind thing going on here, Jamie. It's quite disconcerting.
It's stolen my paper.
So you must know as well then, at some point, I'm going to mention there's now only one club in Thailand with a 100% record at time of recording, but we're not going to mention that.
Apart from the top flight, I don't watch any football, so I don't know what it is.
But no, credit where credit's due. But he must be disappointed that they didn't finish them off.
Definitely there for the take, and I think I couldn't have been upset if they'd got a winner. But we did the interviews back a couple of months ago, and you were talking about the biggest signings of the summer. Neil Etheridge proves that whoever said it, he was the biggest signing because he made the difference last night. I don't think Civilak would have made those saves. I think would have gone down 2-0.
That was Lau. He did nail it. But I mean, it was pretty much a no-brainer, really. I mean, the guy's got pedigree, hasn't he? He's played in the leagues in England, and he's clearly a class act. Those two saves I thought were outstanding. The one where he stretched up and tipped it over the bar. You know, we talk about fingertip saves. That was a fingertip save. And then the other one really was point blank, and the lad should have scored, shouldn't he?
The one with Motta where he took it first time, I thought he could have taken an extra touch and buried it in the corner. I think he rushed it, which was the fast break one. I think he really could have taken a touch and put it in the corner. As soon as that ball went out to the wing, I'm looking at it going, God, we're going down there. My nerves are jangling. But credit to Etheridge. God bless him. I love him.
It must give the rest of the team confidence as well, knowing that you have someone that reliable.
When you mess up terribly, that he's behind you.
No, I mean, it's something I've always maintained that Thai teams in particular, you need a good goalkeeper, a good centre-half and a good striker. That's when you look at importing quality, isn't it? And that's what Buriram have done this season. I think Etheridge is probably, head and shoulders above anyone else in the league, to be honest.
There was one thing, I think, was it Borden took a shot from way out west, near the halfway line, and Etheridge backpedaled and managed to basically just pat it down and then catch it. Whereas a month ago at our place, a young guy called Seksan did the same thing against Bangkok United, and the Bangkok United goalkeeper was running back like he didn't, thought it was a tsunami was coming and just didn't know how to deal with it. But Etheridge, being a bit taller and a bit more, knowledgeable, just took his time and took a few paces back and caught it. And I thought there was a big difference there.
Yeah, well, that happened last night, didn't it? Was it Bisley who had a go from the halfway line? One of their players, the Port players, gave the ball away. He hit it first time, and I think if it had been on target...
No, you're right, It did go to the left of the post, didn't it? That's right,
Yeah.
It's interesting you just mentioned something about the strong squad. I thought that once the substitutions started happening last night, that Buriram took far more control. Up to then, Port were dominant for sure. The squad that Buriram have, the depth, the changes they make don't weaken the team, where with Port, they weren't quite as strong as the starting 11, I thought. And I thought that's when the game started changing a bit and Buriram came into it.
Good point. I think you're right. I mean, this is it, isn't it? What you've got on the bench is as important, or in some cases more important than what's actually out on the field. Who can you bring on and how can you change the game? But valid point. I mean, is there anything you want to pick me up on? Because I was disappointed. I was expecting a lot more. It started off, there were a lot of niggly little fouls, weren't there? And why do you think that? Do you think it was too soon after the international break and the conditions and the players just weren't primed, or?
I'm going to throw a lot of things into this next thing. First of all, I think it was built up so much from what happened last year, and this rivalry that's starting now, which is lovely for the game. I love it. I think somewhere like the Pat Stadium is one of the top 2 or 3. If you want a full house and an evening kickoff with a lot of abuse flying around, it's probably the best place in the country to do it. The stadium's designed for football, and the crowd is right in your face. When it's full, it must be a great place to play. So the crowd get behind the team and they're geeing them up, and the players get overexcited by it. It wasn't the quality. They just nullified each other.
Who do you think would be happier with the result then?
Oh, Buriram for sure.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
We were standing waiting for the bus going home last night, and one of my mates said, "What if you score in the 90th minute?" I went, "I'm going to die because there'll be a death threat for me." But right at the end, when they were in the 6 minutes of injury time, and the ref only played about 2 minutes, and we were getting corner after corner. If one of those had gone in, imagine what it'd been like. It was exactly the same scenario as last year when Port had one disallowed from a corner. If we'd got one, I thought, what if it goes to VAR? The fans aren't going to be allowed out the stadium.
I've got to say, that was something I did notice last night, that I can't remember VAR being used.
That's probably what made it such an anticlimax. There was no controversy in the game whatsoever. I mean, some of the comments this morning, like the ref was great, the ref was awful. I didn't even notice the ref particularly, except when those Port players who've been to the Bangkok United Academy about chatting to the ref got involved. But otherwise, I didn't particularly notice the ref, which tells me he was good.
Yeah, I didn't really notice him, to be honest. Right, if there's nothing further you want to add, Jamie, I think we're about done.
I could add 2 little things, mate, if I could.
Yeah, go on.
I don't want to be controversial, mate. I'd like to know your opinion on a certain FA president and her husband standing in a box with Port shirts on when they're supposed to be neutral. What do you think?
Was she wearing a Port shirt last night?
Oh, yes.
Was she? I didn't actually notice. There was one close up I remember, and it looked like she was just wearing a plain white t-shirt. So okay, I mean, if you say she was, well, clearly, I mean, I'm not in favour of it. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're the president of the FA, you've got to appear to be neutral. That's the thing. You're not doing anybody any favours, are you, by wearing club colours when you're at the match? No. So I would say no. I think she's in the wrong for that. I mean, I've always been quick to praise her on this podcast, but that's certainly something I'd pick her up on for sure.
Yeah, you asked me about the result. You won't believe it. I'm kind of happy that we didn't win in the way, because I think if Buriram had won, it would have been all over. Remember, there was one person tipped Port to win the league this year. So I think to keep it within 2 points is good for the league, good for everything, to be honest.
Was that you who tipped Port to win the league?
Possibly.
So it could. I mean, if it carries on like this, then the return match will be the decider, then, won't it?
Oh, good old VAR! We'd love that.
Anyway, that's been great, mate. I really appreciate you coming on, and you and your shack in Iraq, me and my dad in Khon Kaen, and
you had to get it in one more time.
Yeah, some quality content as a result. So thank you,
Excellent.
Jeremy.
Take care.
It's half-time here at the Khon Kaen Provincial Stadium, and the home side are holding a comfortable 2-0 lead. It's been very entertaining so far. I've enjoyed myself. As I hoped, the crowd has grown. There are a few hundred in there now, and we're being led in our chanting endeavours by a man who, for some reason, is dressed as a Native American. If anybody knows why he's wearing this attire, answers on a postcard to the usual address, please. And he's being ably assisted by a 4-year-old drummer. The away end is very sparsely populated. There are 3 people sitting in there, and I don't think any of them are visiting supporters. I think they're just chosen to sit as far away as possible from the drummer. And I think they probably got in for free as well. There was nobody checking tickets when I looked earlier. Anyway, I'm going to grab a beer, go back in and watch the second half. So while I'm doing that, you can listen to an interview I did earlier in the week with Lyle about all the problems currently facing his club, Nakhon Pathon United. Time Football Podcast Interview. Hello, Lyle. Welcome back on the podcast, mate.
Thank you very much, Dale. Good to speak to you again. So you brought the weather with you from the UK?
Oh, yeah. I've brought some typical Lakeland weather, very wet and rainy and grey. So, yeah, quite pleased with this, actually. I feel at home in both places when it's like this, you see. Anyway, we're not here to talk about the weather. We're here to talk about the situation at your club, Nakhon Pathon United. Do you want to fill us in on what exactly has been happening? And then I'll press you for some thoughts on that.
So the news was starting to break on social media last Wednesday that the club had parted company with Akbar Nawas. Whether he was pushed or whether he'd chosen to leave at that point was all circumstantial. The general thought amongst the supporters, particularly having, lost 3-0 away to Buriram, and there was a lot of disgruntled fans, including me, after that game. But there were general improvements, but heavy defeats. So as time went on, the rumours gained momentum, and then obviously Wednesday the club decided to provide a statement, which was your run-of-the-mill club statement, followed by a rather nice statement from Akbar. But one wonders what was going through the club's mind, because I've written down the quote here. You know, they've mentioned that it wasn't an easy decision to make. And for me, I can see why. You're 5 games into the current season. You've got 3 points on the board. We win away 3-2, first game of the season. And then I think maybe disappointment and frustration within the owners probably came from the manner in which we played against the 2 promoted sides. And then maybe started thinking we've had a lot of key players that have left. The team is quite clearly still trying to gel. And maybe they were undecided this time last Wednesday or straight after the Buriram game, because when you looked at the fixtures list coming up, we'd have Chiang Rai only a point ahead of us. Of course, that's been cancelled because of the awful weather. Khon Kaen away, who are bottom of the table with 1 point. And then Sukhothai at home, followed by Port, Prachuap and BG, 2 of those being away, which would be difficult games. So maybe they were torn between what they were going to do. But of course, then the social media started ramping up again with who was going to be the incoming coach, Coach Toby, who I have to say I don't know much about. We obviously quickly Googled him. and he does appear to be somewhat of a journeyman. I think Khon Kaen was there for what looked like to be at least a full season. He's had jobs at Ubon, coaching with the youth team at BG, Udon Thani, Pattaya Dolphins, and most recently Ayutthaya. Quite concerningly, he was only in management for 5 days there, so he certainly beat Cloughey's record of 44 days at Leeds. I can't compare a Rolls Royce with an old banger, because I think Akbar would say, I'm not a Rolls Royce manager, but I know this league. But we seem to have got rid of somebody who, quite frankly, was still working with the players. So you look at the whole picture. If it were me and I was Akbar, I'd be thinking, I don't know what I could have done more. So there still remains a mystery. And then further discussions I've had with the mates over a pint since last week is that Coach Toy will be an interim manager. And based on the results that Nakhon are getting under Coach Tong, which aren't as expected given their great run last season, the rumour on the street is that Coach Tong will come back and start to take over the team. We shall have to wait and see. Can't say any more than that, really, in terms of a summary, although it was a lengthy one, I must admit.
That is a lot to digest, isn't it? An awful lot going on there. It was funny, right at the start of that, you said about being disgruntled and you being amongst that group of disgruntled fans. I would say you were more exasperated. I mean, you've been sending us match reports, and that's what's come across more than anything else, exasperation. But did you expect all this? I mean, what was this sort of simmering away in the background, or has it come as a complete surprise?
It came as a complete surprise. Had our fifth game been against Nong Bua, then I could have seen a sacking coming, albeit very early on in the season, because it was poor. And it's the first game that I've not stood up when the players have come to see the fans at the end, because I was just thoroughly disappointed because they just weren't at it at all. But for me, yes, it's come as a surprise. I know it's come as a surprise to a lot of the players, and particularly the foreign players, who got on with Akbar. But perhaps it's not come as a surprise to some of the Thai coaching staff, where quite clearly, and I think I've mentioned this previously, I think, on a Thai podcast, rumours, and you're always going to have rumours in football, are that the Thai coaches wanted to do it their way and weren't happy with the manner in which Akbar wanted to train and manage the team. So, yes, a surprise.
I think that's a really good point. It is something that goes on. And like I say, there have been quite a few other examples as well that I'm aware of.
And I also think recruitment, we haven't replaced like with like. I am aware from discussions I've had with my sources that, like every manager at the end of the season and before the beginning of the season, he's got a wish list of who he wants. And I believe on that wish list there were two outstanding non-Bua players that our outgoing manager, I should say, wanted to sign. But unfortunately, they were foreign players that were going to be on a salary that exceeded whatever cap we have for foreign players. The other issue, of course, is that we haven't got an out-and-out striker. We had Evandro last season. That didn't work out, but I understand the reasons why that didn't work out was because he's one of those Brazilian players, and I know I've seen a lot of Brazilian players in my life with the likes of Emerson Juninho and Deriva. They like to come with a family. He wanted to bring his family and finances wouldn't allow it. But we haven't found a striker. And I think in this league, you've got to have somebody that can consistently put 7, 8, 9, 10 goals in. Because this season, Leslie, who I was waxing lyrical about, turning back the clock all of last season, he looks an absolute shadow of the player that he was last season.
I still think it's fantastic that you have got a player called Leslie. There aren't many out there, are there?
Do you know what? It's funny because everybody wondered what was going on at the first game of the season. He's always worn number 13 and he turns up with Lee on the back. So whether that's just his nickname, Leslie, although it's L-I-E spell, I don't know, but that was spelled Lee. We thought we'd sign a new Korean player.
Leslie, yeah. Oh my God. We need more Leslies in this game, I think, for sure. Les Cocker was the one that springs to mind, the former coach. I can't struggle to remember anymore. Les Chapman used to play for Oldham, but he wasn't a Leslie. They were Lesies, these fellas. Anyway, I digress. What are your feelings on the situation now? I mean, an interim coach who, like you said earlier, has kind of been around a bit and not had that much success, has he? I mean, is this someone that you think they just brought in? He's going to be a yes man and he's going to do exactly what he's told to do just to tide things over?
Without question. I mean, as I say, I don't know the guy. I'm always one to give everybody a fair chance. I wasn't that enthusiastic when Akbar came in last season. But I had to applaud him at the end of the season because we did play some attractive football and we did grind out results. Interestingly, the first half of last season, we were very good. The second half of the season, we were poor. It has changed. What I don't see happening is the new incoming coach, Coach Toy, being able to do anything any faster than what Akbar had been doing from whenever he started the season. I know for a fact that he wanted an extra 2 weeks before for pre-season to start. And the answer was, allegedly, sorry, you can't, because that would mean I'd have to pay the salaries of the players 2 weeks earlier. So you make that financial decision, and 2 weeks for a new group of players to start to gel is invaluable, in my opinion. So you're left with an incoming coach who's a bit of a journeyman and is probably going to take some time to bed in. And you have to say that there must be somebody out there, a Coach Tong or somebody else, that is going to come and change it around, because Pratchett, they were in an awful position middle of the season last season, and they took in, I always forget the guy's name.
It's Sassom, isn't it, at Pratchett? He was at Chonburi for a while and at Port before that.
They got him in, and my word, he changed the team around. But he has a pedigree, a CV. And unfortunately, Coach Toy, to me, the pedigree isn't there. And if I'm hearing rumours that all he's got the players doing is extra running work, I have to say that he's probably just going to be in here as a stopgap until somebody who might be able to do a better job becomes available.
Do you think the postponement of this weekend's game, obviously it's a very tragic situation, I'm not belittling that in any way, but do you think that's actually worked in your favour?
There are one or two of the foreign players that I know relatively well that they're delighted because they just knew they weren't going to be ready. Me personally, having watched all the Chiang Rai's games this season, I think had they played, we'd have a chance of at least getting a point, if not 3 points, had the game not been postponed and it went ahead at 6 o'clock on Saturday. But I think generally one would hope that this extra 2 weeks will be beneficial. What are they going to do in the next 2 weeks? We shall see. The proof of the pudding will be at Khon Kaen away, which is not a great ground for us. And Khon Kaen are notorious for always coming back and getting a draw anyway. But I will be there a week on Saturday. And, that's Friday night, isn't it?
I was going to say, but make sure you're there on Friday, mate.
Aye.
On Saturday.
I've got a day's holiday for it. It's such a special occasion. But yeah, I might be watching that game hiding at the back of the terrace. But I would like to think that the fans will get behind Coach Toy. I suspect that the team he puts out will be no different whatsoever from that which Akbar's been putting out, because you can only work with the tools that you've got. And at the moment, the toolbox is empty, I have to say. It's
going to be a huge game, that, isn't it? I mean, whatever happens between now and then, it's looking like the two teams are going to be in the bottom two places. It's already a relegation 6-pointer, I think we've got to call it, Lyle, in our build-up.
No, I think definitely a 6-pointer. And, we struggled against Khon Kaen last season. I have to remain bullish still.
And on that note, do you have much faith in your owners and is it Amy, Khun Amy, isn't it, who seems to be making most of the decisions? How much faith do you have in her and her family to make the right decisions regarding the club?
I know a lot about this football club because obviously my wife, that's why I live in Nakhon Pathon, because my wife wanted to be closer to her family and that's where she's been brought up. Without question, Nakhon Pathon, when it was set up in 1999, the father of the current owner, he just loved his football. And I know that the son now, who is the owner, he also loves his football, but he looked in a different way. I don't think he's as enthusiastic. Maybe I might be wrong, but I don't believe, from what people have told me, he's as enthusiastic. With Amy, you have to say she's done a very good job. She picked a manager from last season. Don't forget that Coach Tong, we got promoted, and I think it was about 2 or 3 days later. All right, thanks very much. I'm off to BG. And, she had to find a manager. She found a manager who was a slight mystery to us all. He did a great job. He kept a team on a low budget up and played entertaining football. I'm a big believer in all football clubs throughout the world allowing the manager or the coach to coach and manage the football team. When I say manage, I mean manage it from a football perspective, what they do on the 90 minutes when they cross the white line. in terms of the other side of football, then yes, leave that marketing, players transfers, etc. to the other side. I believe she does that very well. But she's a very young person to be involved in a football club. And I can speak from experience when Steve Gibson bought Middlesbrough Football Club in 1986 before they went into liquidation. I think he was 26 when he bought that club, so slightly younger than Amy. But it takes a certain person, a certain type of person, to be able to step back and let the coach and the coaching staff manage the football team and develop that football team. I believe she does do that. And I will go back to what I said right at the beginning. And when you forensically look at the club statement, when they say it was not an easy decision to make, one has to raise the question, who made the decision to let the coach go? Was it Amy or was it somebody else? That's the question.
I guess we'll never find out, will we, in all honesty?
I don't believe we will, but we shall be there next Saturday, Dale, supping pints and cheering the team on.
Please remember it's Friday, Lyle.
Oh, yeah, well, I will. Don't worry, my wife will remind me.
Yeah, I'll send you a couple of messages in the week just saying it's Friday. To be fair, you won't be the first person to turn up the day after a match in this country. It has happened to a number of us, actually, including myself. So you'd be in very good company should that happen. But I don't think you will.
Anyway, lovely to speak to you, Dale.
Yes, and you, mate. And more than anything, I'm looking forward to meeting up with you next Friday, Lyle. Make sure you remember that.
Yes, Friday. I will not forget, don't you?
All right, because I'll be long gone on Saturday, mate. So remember Friday night.
Yep, all the best, Dale. See you Friday.
Full time, finished 2-0, Khon Kaen. Second half was a bit of an anticlimax really, not a lot happened. Khon Kaen had one chance that rattled the crossbar, and right at the end, Ubon Kruanapat had a player sent off, rather harshly I think. Other than that, I can't remember any other cards that the ref gave out. Wasn't a dirty game by any stretch of the imagination. Right, I'm faced with a long ride home now, so while I'm doing that, you can listen to two further match reports from Riza, T1, reporting on his beloved Ratchababuri, and Simon, who is at Phuket Andaman against Yala in T3 South.
Ties to Football Podcast. Match reports.
Assalamualaikum, Sawadee. Good evening from Chiang Mai Stadium. Today the match between Lamphun FC with Ratchababuri FC. This match is supposed to be played in Lamphun City Stadium, but because of the new stadium didn't meet FA requirements, so it moved to Chiang Mai Stadium. The match has ended 1-0 for the Lamphun Warriors. The goal happens in the first minute of the game. Ratchababuri after that trying to attack, but no end result. They're playing only in one side, which is in the right side only throughout the first half. In the second half they start to attack, but still the same way of playing until they make a changes of their left back, which changes the game. But still a lot of chances, but Ratchababuri didn't able to equalize and have to accept another loss. For myself, I don't like changes, but I think this time the new coach Sorapong unable to do his job well. So I think it's better not let to change the coach. Either it's foreign or another Thai coach. That's just my opinion from the last previous matches and results, which is very disappointing. Well, there it is. They tried their best, but didn't get the results we wanted. See you on the next match. Come on, you Dragons.
Ties to Football Podcast. Match reports.
Sawadee Cap from a rather wet and despondent Circle Stadium. It was match day 1 for Phuket Andaman FC in their T3 kickoff under the new ownership, and it didn't really go to plan against FC Yala. The pitch wasn't in a great condition even before the torrential rains we had all afternoon, and it made the pitch a quagmire. It was almost impossible to play. The ball wouldn't run at all, and for a team like Phuket, who are trying to play a progressive ball-to-foot sort of game, aggressive Yala team really came along with their height advantage and dominated throughout the game. Yala took the lead on the 5th minute when Lassamana, the captain, managed to finish from a counter-attack. From then on, the whole game descended into nasty fouls, players falling over constantly the whole time, and lots of free kicks. It was one of those free kicks that Phuket eventually managed to equalise on the 15th minute, with a free kick from Atakorn on the left to Torquay, the new Egyptian signing, who swiveled beautifully and finished the ball. Then Yala upped the ante and led possession for a large period of time, going route one, while their huge centre-backs and great distribution from their goalkeeper really allowed them to dominate. And this came to fruition in the 40th minute when Lassamana converted again from a corner. After half-time, the first 15 minutes were niggly, back and forwards. No one really seemed to want to do anything. And then the introduction of Bebe, the new Ivory Coast signing, made a big difference for Phuket, and they started playing football a bit more. They managed to get the ball down, and he and Game down the left-hand side had some impressive runs, which unfortunately didn't lead to much in the end. Kittipap should have equalised in the last minute from a kick from just outside the box, but it was deflected. Overall, Yala probably deserved the win, but Phuket didn't really get a chance to show what they have. And hopefully, with a bit more understanding and a plan B, it'll get better over the season.
That's your lot. So, thanks to Toby, thanks to Jamie, thanks to Lyle, thanks to Riza, and thanks to Simon. And most of all, thanks to you for listening. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you on the next one.